Hello everyone, this is Aleah Weekly, bringing you this week's report of the Weekly Weekly's report. This episode is going to be based on two stories. More specifically, two men with two different stories, but they both have some similarities thrown in. The two men you need to know for this episode is John Proctor and Anand Syed. Now here's a little background of each man. John Proctor is one of the main characters in the play called The Crucible. He lives in Salem. Him and his wife, Elizabeth Proctor, become the center of a witchcraft scandal. With these accusations, his reputation is put to shame. For the most part, John Proctor sticks to the strict rules of the Puritan faith, but there is one strict rule that he failed to abide by: adultery. John Proctor has an affair with a girl named Abigail. Committing adultery, he has lost the trust from his wife, with Elizabeth saying, and I quote, "You were alone with her?" end quote, questioning John about him being alone with Abigail. She is unable to forgive him for the most part. Throughout the play, John and Elizabeth's relationship has a lot of strain on it. John Proctor's best thing that he has throughout the play is his name, and respect that goes with his name. John doesn't want to confess to his sins because he feels like he will lose the integrity and respect of his name. But he confesses his sins to save his wife's life because she is about to be killed for accusations against her about witchcraft. Proctor goes to write his confession but refuses to sign it. He refuses to sign it because it is a false confession. He does not want his name ruined, so he refuses to sign it and rips it up. Although he is facing death at this point, he still refuses to sign it. At the end of the play, John is taken to the gallows, but he finds peace within himself for not letting someone take his name. As Proctor says during all of this, and I quote, "I have given you my soul, leave me my name," end quote. He's willing to lose his life as long as people know the truth about him. Now we're going to move on to the next man you need to know, Anand Syed. Anand Syed was an athletic 18-year-old who had good grades. He was known as the golden child by most people. Around this time, there was many different opinions of Anand. Like, did he commit this crime? Did he not commit this crime? Like I mentioned earlier, many people viewed Anand as this amazing child who would do anything to make people laugh. He was great in school, he was on the track team, and loved school and track. He attended church with his family. There was some people who believed Anand to be capable of committing the crime he was accused of. Anand is now in prison for being convicted of murder when he was 18. He was convicted in 1999 for the murder of his ex-girlfriend Hay. With very little evidence, Anand was thrown in prison and continues to live an everyday prison life to this day. Throughout Anand's case, the accuser had many different versions of his stories. He also had many things that didn't add up on his part, but Anand also didn't have things that added up in his defense either. For example, the phone record showing there was a call made to someone that only Anand knew during the time that Anand said he didn't have his phone. But the accuser Jay had many more things that didn't add up. For example, he changed his side of the story about where Anand showed him the body in Hay's trunk. At first it was a strip, but then he said that Anand showed him the body in the Best Buy parking lot? How could you forget where you've seen a dead body in a trunk? It doesn't make sense to me. At Anand's trial, he waived his chance to testify. At the time, everyone couldn't understand why he wouldn't take the chance to stick up for himself. But people also didn't know that Anand's defense attorney at the time said it was best that he let her do all the talking. She didn't want him under pressure. Anand pleaded not guilty during this time, even though there's a possible chance of him getting out sooner if he did confess. He has yet to do it. Anand to this day refuses to confess to this crime. And why do you think that is? Okay, so I've given you the background of each man. Now here's a similarity that sticks out to me the most. John Proctor and Anand Syed both refused to confess to something. Both of them were crimes. Both men refused to confess because they said they didn't do it. I've been asked if I thought this to be right or wrong for both of them to not confess to these crimes. Here is my answer. I think they both are right for not confessing to these crimes, and this is why. Both men are not confessing because they claim to have not committed these crimes. So why would someone confess if they didn't do it? Yes, it may be taking the easy way out to confess and get the consequences over with, but these men are not going to let people put shame to their life or their name for trying to accuse them of a crime they did not commit, or lying about not committing a crime. I find these two men to be strong and honest. They stick up for themselves. John Proctor and Anand Syed may have two different stories and different issues, but at the same time, they are the same when it comes to dignity and strength. Just think, if you were accused of a crime that you didn't commit, would you confess? Until next time, this is Aleah Weekly with the Weekly Weeklies Report.